The blood was still warm when she arrived. Maya stood in the doorway of the penthouse, mop bucket in one hand, supply caddy in the other, staring at the dark smear trailing from the marble entryway toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. The city lights glittered 40 stories below, indifferent and beautiful. She'd been sent up by her supervisor with no explanation, just an address and a key card, told to clean and ask no questions. The agency specialized in discreet services for wealthy clients. She'd scrubbed luxury apartments before, always late at night, always alone. But she'd never walked into one that smelled like copper and expensive cologne. She set down her supplies and pulled on latex gloves. A blood trail led past a white leather sofa, across imported Italian tile, and stopped at a steel door that looked reinforced. She didn't touch it. Instead, she knelt beside the first dark pool and began to work, spraying enzyme cleaner, letting it sit, blotting with microfiber cloths. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. She'd cleaned worse. After her mother's accident, she'd spent 6 months caring for her at home, changing bandages, washing sheets stained with things she tried not to think about. Blood was just biology. Fear was optional. "You're very calm." The voice came from behind her, low and measured, with the kind of accent that came from international schools and old money. Maya didn't jump. She'd heard the door open, heard the soft tread of expensive shoes on marble. She finished blotting the section she was working on before she looked up. The man stood 10 feet away, suit jacket draped over one arm, white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that didn't blink. His shirt cuff was stained red. He watched her the way someone might watch a chess piece that had moved unexpectedly. "It's my job," she said, and went back to the stain. Most people would have called the police. Most people don't need the money. She heard him move closer, his footsteps deliberate. He stopped at the edge of her workspace, close enough that she could see his shoes, black leather polished to a mirror shine except for a single dark splatter near the toe. She kept cleaning. "You're not curious what happened here?" "No." "Why not?" She sat back on her heels and looked up at him. His face was unreadable, carved from something harder than the marble beneath her knees. "Because if you wanted me to know, you'd tell me. If you don't want me to know, asking would be stupid. Either way, the blood needs cleaning." Something flickered in his eyes. Not surprise exactly, evaluation. "What's your name?" "Maya." "Just Maya." "Just Maya's fine." He tilted his head slightly, studying her. "You're not afraid of me." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Should I be?" "Yes." The word hung in the air between them, honest and cold. Maya held his gaze for 3 seconds, then returned to her work. "I'll be done in an hour. The trail leads to that door. I wasn't told if you wanted the other room cleaned." "No, only this room." "Understood." He didn't move. She could feel him watching as she worked her way along the blood trail, spraying and blotting, spraying and blotting. The enzyme cleaner had a sharp chemical smell that cut through the copper. She'd learned years ago that staying busy kept panic at bay. Her mother used to say she had steady hands and a quiet mind, useful traits when the world was falling apart. "How long have you worked for the cleaning service?" he asked. 3 months. Before that, hospital custodian. Before that, nursing school until I couldn't afford it. "Why couldn't you afford it?" She paused, considering whether to answer. But his tone held no judgment, only curiosity, the kind that felt more like data collection than conversation. "My mother had a stroke, medical bills. I dropped out to work." "Is she alive?" "No." "I'm sorry." Maya glanced up at him. His expression hadn't changed, but something in his voice made the condolence sound genuine rather than automatic. "Thank you." He moved to the windows, hands in his pockets, and stood looking out at the city. She returned to cleaning. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, just present. She'd nearly finished the main trail when he spoke again. "Do you know who I am?" "No." "Do you want to know?" She considered the question, the blood on his cuff, the reinforced door, the way he stood like someone who'd never been told no in his life. Only if it affects whether I get paid. This time he did smile, barely, just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. You'll get paid. The agency charges triple for discretion. You'll see a bonus in your next check. Then I don't need to know. He turned from the window to face her fully. The city lights behind him turned him into a silhouette, dark and sharp. My name is Kang Minho. I own this building, and 11 others in Seoul. I also own the cleaning service that sent you here. Maya's hands stilled for just a moment, then continued working. I see. That's all, I see. What else should I say? Most people would be nervous, or they'd try to leave. She moved to the next section of floor, closer to where he stood. Most people probably didn't grow up in Dongdaemun with a gambling addict father and a sick mother. I learned early that powerful men exist whether I acknowledge them or not. Being nervous doesn't change anything. You're practical. I'm tired. The honesty seemed to interest him more than anything else she'd said. He watched as she cleaned the last of the visible blood, as she went back over the entire area with a black light to check for traces, as she scrubbed and rinsed until the marble gleamed. When she finally stood, stripping off her gloves, he was still watching. You missed a spot, he said quietly. She followed his gaze to a small spray pattern on the baseboard, barely visible. She knelt again and cleaned it without comment. When she stood the second time, he nodded, something like approval in the gesture. How often does the service send you here? He asked. First time. Usually I clean medical offices and apartments in Gangnam. Would you come back? Maya looked at him carefully. His face remained neutral, but the question carried weight she couldn't quite identify. If they send me, yes. What if I requested you specifically? Then I'd come, even knowing what you know now. She thought about her empty apartment, the bills piling up, her younger brother's university tuition that she'd promised to help with. She thought about her mother's last words. Survive first, judge later. Mr. Kang, I don't know what happened here tonight, but I know you didn't hurt me. I know you're paying me well. And I know that people in your position don't usually explain themselves to people in mine. So yes, I'd come back. He studied her for a long moment, then walked to a side table and picked up a business card. He crossed the space between them and held it out. The card was heavy stock, cream-colored, with a single phone number embossed in gold. No name. This is my direct line, he said. I'm requesting you personally for any cleaning this residence requires. The agency will coordinate, but you'll report to me. Maya took the card. Understood. One more thing. Yes. If anyone asks you what you saw tonight, what will you tell them? She met his eyes. I saw a very clean floor when I left. The smile returned, slightly wider this time. Good, you can go. She packed her supplies, placed the soiled cloths in a sealed bag for disposal, and wheeled her cart to the door. She was halfway into the hallway when his voice stopped her. Maya. She turned back. He stood in the center of the spotless floor, hands in his pockets, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. Be careful going home. Seoul is dangerous at night. I know, she said. I've lived here my whole life. Not this Seoul, not the one you just stepped into. She held his gaze, understanding settling in her chest like a stone. Then she nodded once and left, pulling the door closed behind her. In the elevator, descending through floors of silent luxury, she looked at the card in her hand. The gold number gleamed under the fluorescent lights. She should throw it away. She should find a different job, a different agency, a different life that didn't involve blood on marble at 3 a.m. Instead, she slipped it into her pocket and walked out into the Seoul night, where the air smelled like rain and exhaust and the distant promise of danger. She didn't know it yet, but Kang Minho had made a decision in those quiet minutes watching her work. And when Kang Minho decided something, the world rearranged itself to accommodate him. The call came 3 days later. Maya was scrubbing baseboards in a dermatology clinic in Gangnam when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail, finished the section she was working on, then checked the message during her break. This is Kang Minho. I need you at my residence tonight, 11 p.m. The agency has already been notified. His voice was the same, low and precise, carrying authority like some people carried briefcases. She saved the number and went back to work, ignoring the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. It was just another job, just another client. The fact that he might be connected to something illegal didn't make him different from half the wealthy people in Seoul, and she'd been cleaning their spaces for months without incident. But when she arrived at the building that night, key card in hand, she noticed things she'd missed before. The security guard who nodded to her without checking her ID. The camera in the elevator that tracked her movement with mechanical precision. The way the hallway to Minho's penthouse was quieter than the others, as if sound itself had been instructed to behave. She knocked twice before using the keycard. "Come in." The penthouse was dark except for the city lights streaming through the windows. Minho stood at the glass, wearing black slacks and a dark button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows. No jacket this time. No blood. He looked almost normal, except for the way he held himself, that complete stillness that marked predators and soldiers. "Thank you for coming," he said without turning. Maya set down her supplies. "What needs cleaning?" "Nothing yet. I wanted to talk to you first." She waited. He turned to face her, and in the dim light his features were all shadow and sharp angles. "The work I'm offering you is unusual," he said. "It will always be late at night. It will sometimes be unpleasant. You will occasionally see things that could frighten you. In exchange, I'll pay you 5 times your current rate and guarantee your safety. But I need to know if you can handle it." "Handle what exactly?" "Discretion, composure, the ability to clean a space and forget what made it dirty." Maya's pulse quickened, but her voice stayed steady. "I already do that, Mr. Kang." "Not like this. The people I deal with are not doctors and businessmen. They're dangerous. If you work for me, you'll be associated with me. That association has consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "Protection, mostly. No one will bother someone under my employment, but also attention. There are people who would use you to get to me if they knew you had access to my home." She processed this information, weighing it against her rent, her brother's tuition, the emptiness of her refrigerator. "And you think I can be trusted?" "I think you're practical enough to understand that betraying me would be the last mistake you'd make." The threat was delivered without heat, just flat statement of fact. Maya should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something like clarity. This was the choice her mother had warned her about, the moment when you decided what kind of life you were willing to live. She thought about her nursing textbooks collecting dust, her dreams of helping people, the slow death of ambition under the weight of survival. "I'll do it," she said, "on one condition." His eyebrows rose slightly. "You're negotiating with me." "You asked if I could handle it. I can, but I want something in return. Besides 5 times your current salary." "Besides that," she took a breath. "My brother is in his first year at Korea University, pre-med. If something happens to me, I want a guarantee that his tuition is covered for all 4 years. Full scholarship, no questions asked." Minho was quiet for a long moment, studying her. Then he moved to the side table, pulled out his phone, and made a call. The conversation was in rapid Korean, too quick for her to follow completely, but she caught her brother's name, the university, the word full and immediate. He ended the call and looked at her. "Done. His tuition is paid through graduation. Medical school, too, if he gets in." Maya felt her chest tighten. Just like that. Just like that, anything else? She shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Good, then let's begin. Follow me." He led her past the living area to the reinforced door she'd noticed on her first visit. He pressed his palm to a scanner, entered a code, and the lock disengaged with a heavy click. The door swung open onto a staircase leading down. "This leads to my private office," he said. "You'll clean it once a week. No one else has access except me and now you. What you see here stays here. Understood?" "Yes." They descended into a space that was part office, part armory. Dark wood desk, leather chairs, walls lined with bookshelves and locked cabinets. A large safe in one corner. Floor-to-ceiling monitors on one wall showing security feeds from various locations around Seoul. And on the desk, a laptop, papers, and what looked like dried blood on a letter opener. "Start there," Minho said, gesturing to the desk. "I need everything cleaned and sanitized. Papers stay as they are, don't read them. Equipment on the shelves, do not touch." Maya pulled on gloves and began working. She could feel him watching from the doorway, that same evaluative stare from their first meeting. The blood came off easily enough. The desk was quality wood that cleaned well. She worked methodically, moving from surface to surface, careful not to disturb papers or knock against the locked cabinets. "You're very thorough," he observed. "You're paying me to be thorough. Most people would rush. Nerves. Rushing means mistakes. Mistakes mean coming back. You don't want to come back." She paused, considering the question. "I don't mind coming back. I just don't want to waste your time." "My time is mine to waste." "Then I don't want to waste mine." He made a sound that might have been amusement. "You're honest. I appreciate that. Most people who work for me spend half their energy trying to figure out what I want to hear." "What's the point? You'd know if I was lying." "Yes, I would." She finished the desk and moved to the floor, checking for traces. The black light revealed a few spots, small spatters easily missed by the naked eye. She cleaned them carefully, aware of his continued scrutiny. The silence between them felt less like awkwardness and more like mutual assessment. She wondered what he saw when he looked at her, whether she registered as anything more than a useful tool. "Tell me about your brother," he said suddenly. Maya glanced up. "Why?" "Because he's clearly important to you. Important enough to negotiate over." She returned to cleaning. "His name is Yi. He's 19. Smart, much smarter than me. He wants to be a surgeon, cardiovascular." "And you're supporting him." "Someone has to. Our father disappeared when Yi was 12. Our mother died 3 years ago. He has no one else." "He has you." "For now." "You think you'll die young?" The bluntness of the question should have shocked her, but coming from him it sounded like simple curiosity. "I think people like me don't have long-term plans. We have survival plans. Getting Yi through university is my survival plan." "What happens after he graduates?" "I don't know. Maybe I'll have the luxury of thinking about it then." Minho was quiet for a moment. When she looked up, he'd moved closer, standing just outside her work area. His expression was thoughtful. "You're 24. 25 next month. You should have finished nursing school by now." "Yes." "You'd be good at it. You have steady hands." She sat back on her heels, meeting his eyes. "Is there a point to this conversation, Mr. Kang?" "The point is that I'm trying to understand why you're not afraid of me." "I already told you. Being afraid doesn't change anything." "Most people would still feel it, even if they didn't show it." Maya pulled off her gloves and stood, facing him directly. "You want to know if I'm actually calm or just good at pretending?" "Yes." "I don't know how to explain it. When my mother was sick, I had to give her injections every day. The first time, my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the needle. She looked at me and said, 'If you're going to be afraid after. Right now, just do what needs doing.' So I did. And every day after that, it got easier. Not because the fear went away, but because I learned that fear is just noise. It doesn't help. So I turn down the volume and focus on what's in front of me." He listened without interruption, his dark eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "Your mother was wise. She was a realist. So are you. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You chose to walk into my home knowing what it meant. You chose to negotiate for your brother's future. You chose to come back tonight." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive with notes of cedar and smoke. "Most people in your position would have run, or tried to use what they knew against me. You did neither. Why?" Maya held his gaze. "Because running means looking over my shoulder forever, and using information against someone like you means dying. I'm practical, Mr. Kang, not suicidal. And you think working for me is safer. I think if you wanted to hurt me, I'd already be hurt." "True. So the question isn't whether you're dangerous. The question is whether you're dangerous to me specifically. And so far, you've been nothing but professional." Something shifted in his expression, a subtle relaxation around his eyes. You'd make a good negotiator or a good criminal. I'll settle for a good cleaner. No, he said quietly. You'll be more than that. Before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor changed, snapping from conversational to coldly focused in an instant. I need to take this. Finish here and lock up when you're done. The door will secure automatically behind you. He was gone before she could respond, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Maya stood alone in the underground office, surrounded by evidence of a life she'd only glimpsed in movies and news reports. She should leave. She should finish quickly and get out. Instead, she took her time, cleaning every surface until it gleamed, making sure nothing was missed. When she finally locked up and left the penthouse, it was nearly 2 in the morning. Her phone buzzed as she waited for the elevator. A text from an unknown number. Your brother's account has been updated. Thank you for your work tonight. I'll call again soon. Below the text was a bank screenshot showing Yi's tuition account. Paid in full through graduation, with an additional deposit marked medical school fund. Maya stared at the screen, something uncomfortable and warm spreading through her chest. Kang Minho was dangerous. He was connected to violence and blood and locked doors. He was the kind of man her mother would have warned her about. But he'd kept his word. The elevator arrived. Maya stepped inside, catching her reflection in the polished steel doors. She looked tired. She looked small, but she didn't look afraid. That, she thought, might be the most dangerous thing of all. The weeks that followed established a pattern. Maya would receive a text every 3 to 4 days, always late evening, always brief. Tonight, 11 p.m. She'd arrive at the penthouse, clean whatever needed cleaning, and leave with the same generous payment deposited into her account before morning. Sometimes the space was pristine, and Minho would simply have her perform routine maintenance. Other times, there were signs of violence, blood on surfaces, broken glass, the chemical smell of cleaning agents already deployed by someone less thorough. She never asked what happened. He never offered explanations. But gradually, something shifted between them. He began talking to her while she worked, not constant conversation, but observations, questions, fragments of his thoughts. He asked about Yi's progress at university, whether Maya's apartment was safe, if she'd eaten dinner before arriving. She answered honestly, the way she answered everything, and he seemed to appreciate the lack of performance in her responses. One night, she arrived to find the penthouse dark, and Minho sitting on the floor by the windows, blood on his knuckles, staring out at the city. She set down her supplies and approached cautiously. Mr. Kang. I didn't call you, he said quietly. You texted 2 hours ago. That was a mistake. I meant to cancel. Maya looked at his hands, at the tension in his shoulders. Should I leave? Probably. She didn't move. After a long moment, she sat down beside him, maintaining a respectful distance. They sat in silence, 40 stories above the city, surrounded by darkness and the glow of 10 million lives below. I killed someone tonight, he said finally. Maya's heart kicked once, hard, then settled. Did they deserve it? Does it matter? To me, no, to you. She glanced at his profile. I think it does. He turned to look at her, and in the dim light she saw something raw in his expression, something that looked almost human. He sold children, distributed images, made money from their suffering. I found him through one of my networks. I gave him a chance to stop. He laughed. Then yes, Maya said simply. He deserved it. You don't sound shocked. I'm not. I'm angry I didn't know so I could have helped. Minho stared at her. Helped. Men like that are why I wanted to be a nurse, so I could help the people they hurt. If you're removing them from the world, that's just a different kind of helping. That's not justice, that's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a short, rough sound. You're dangerous, Maya. I'm a cleaning woman. You're a woman who thinks monsters are justified if they hunt the right prey. Are you a monster, Mr. Kang? Yes. Do you hunt the right prey? He met her eyes, I try. Then I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Monsters don't discriminate as carefully as we think we do. Maya looked down at his bloodied knuckles. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took his hand. He went still, watching as she examined the split skin, the bruising. You need ice and antiseptic, come on. She stood and pulled him up, leading him to the kitchen. He followed without protest, which surprised her more than anything that had happened that night. She ran cold water over his knuckles, dried them gently, applied antiseptic from her cleaning supplies. He watched her work with that same intense focus he always had, but closer now, intimate. Why aren't you running? He asked. Where would I go? Anywhere I'm not. But then who would clean up after you? His mouth curved slightly. I had people before you. Were they as good? No. Then you need me. She finished bandaging his knuckles and stepped back. I'll clean the study, you should rest. She moved toward the stairs, but his voice stopped her. Maya. She turned. Thank you. She nodded and disappeared down into the underground office, where she spent the next hour scrubbing evidence from surfaces and thinking about monsters and the people who chose to stand beside them. When she emerged, he was asleep on the couch, one arm thrown over his eyes. She cleaned around him silently, locked up, and left. But before she closed the door, she looked back at his sleeping form, at the man who killed predators and paid for her brother's education, and let her see his blood-stained hands. You're welcome, she whispered to the empty room, and left him dreaming whatever dreams monsters dreamed. The next time she saw him, he acted as if nothing had happened. But he started leaving coffee for her, expensive dark roast in a thermos, still hot when she arrived. He never mentioned it. She never thanked him. But she drank it every night, and they both knew what it meant. Something was building between them, careful and dangerous and inevitable. 3 months into her arrangement with Minho, Maya's life developed a strange duality. By day, she worked her regular cleaning jobs, scrubbing medical offices and empty apartments, invisible to the people who employed her. By night, she descended into Minho's world, cleaning spaces that reeked of violence and money, slowly becoming less invisible to the one person who seemed to actually see her. She learned things about him in fragments. He owned legitimate businesses, luxury hotels and import companies, but those were just scaffolding for something darker. He moved in circles where loyalty was currency and betrayal was death. He had enemies, people whose names he mentioned only once before they disappeared from conversation entirely. He had allies, cold-eyed men in expensive suits who sometimes left the penthouse as she arrived, nodding to her with respect they'd never shown when she was just the cleaning woman. She learned that the underground office was his real workspace, where he conducted business the world never saw. She learned that he slept approximately 4 hours a night, that he spoke 3 languages fluently, that he preferred bourbon to wine and silence to music. She learned that when he was angry, he became quieter, more still, like a blade being drawn slowly from its sheath. But mostly, she learned that he was lonely. It showed in small ways. The way he kept her talking even after she'd finished cleaning, asking questions about her childhood, her mother, her dreams before they'd died. The way he'd make excuses for her to stay longer, pointing out imaginary smudges, requesting that she reorganize already organized spaces. The way he looked at her sometimes, when he thought she wasn't watching, like she was something rare he'd found and didn't quite know how to keep. She told herself it didn't matter. He was her employer. She was his employee. The boundaries were clear. But then came the night everything changed. Maya arrived at 11 to find the penthouse door already open. Her first thought was that Minho had forgotten to close it, but Minho forgot nothing. Her second thought was that something was wrong. She pushed the door wider, staying in the hallway, and called out. Mr. Kang. Silence. She pulled out her phone, ready to call the emergency number he'd given her, when she heard it, a low groan from inside. She abandoned caution and stepped through the doorway, following the sound to the living area. Minho was on the floor beside the couch, blood spreading from a wound in his side, his shirt soaked red. His face was pale, jaw clenched against pain. When he saw her, Something like relief flickered in his eyes. "Maya," his voice was rough, "you shouldn't be here." She dropped her supplies and ran to him, kneeling in the blood that pooled on his pristine marble floor. Her nursing training, dormant for 3 years, surged back. "What happened?" "Ambush, building garage. I made it up here, but—" he hissed as she pressed her hand against the wound. "Bullet. Knife, it's still in." Maya's mind raced. "We need to get you to a hospital." "No hospitals, they'll report it. Police will come. I can't." He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "I have a doctor in my phone. Call Dr. Yoon." She fumbled for his phone, found the contact, called. A woman answered immediately. "This is Dr. Yoon." "Mr. Kang is injured. Knife wound, still embedded. He's lost a lot of blood." "Where are you?" "His penthouse." "I'm 30 minutes out. Keep pressure on the wound. Do not remove the blade. If he loses consciousness, call me back immediately." The line went dead. Maya dropped the phone and focused on Minho. His face had gone gray, his breathing shallow. She stripped off her jacket, wadded it up, and pressed it against the wound around the blade. He groaned, fingers digging into the marble. "Stay with me," she said firmly. "Look at me." His eyes focused on her face. "You should go. Whoever did this might come back. Then they'll find me here." "Maya." "Shut up, save your energy." He laughed, a pained sound. "Giving me orders now." "Someone has to. You're terrible at self-preservation." "That's why I have you." She wanted to argue, but he was right. Somehow, without either of them planning it, she'd become essential to his survival. Not just as a cleaner, but as something more, something neither of them had named. She kept pressure on the wound, monitoring his breathing, checking his pulse. Blood soaked through her jacket, warm and too plentiful. "Tell me something," he said, voice fatting. "Like what?" "Anything. Your voice helps." So she talked. She told him about growing up in Dongdaemun, about her father's gambling debts, about the time she and Yi had survived on convenience store rice balls for a week. She told him about her mother's last days, how she'd made Maya promise to take care of Yi no matter what. She talked until her voice was hoarse and his eyes started drifting closed. "Minho," she used his first name without thinking. "Stay awake." "Tired." "I know, but the doctor is coming, just a little longer." "If I don't make it." "You're going to make it." "If I don't, my assistant will take care of you. His name is Han. He'll make sure you're protected." "I don't need protection. You're not dying." He smiled faintly. "Bossy." "You have no idea." The elevator chimed. Maya tensed, ready to fight if necessary, but Dr. Yoon burst through the door, medical bag in hand, trailed by a man carrying additional equipment. The doctor was middle-aged, competent-looking, completely unfazed by the blood. "Move," she ordered Maya. Maya shifted aside, letting the doctor take over. Dr. Yoon cut away Minhu's shirt, examined the wound, barked orders at her assistant. They worked with practiced efficiency, starting an IV line, administering something that made Minhu's tension ease slightly. "The blade nicked his liver," Dr. Yoon said. "But it's plugging the wound. I need to remove it carefully and control the bleeding." "You," she looked at Maya, "are you trained?" "Nursing student, 2 years." "Good enough. Scrub your hands in the kitchen, put on gloves, come back. You're assisting." Maya obeyed, moving on autopilot. When she returned, Dr. Yoon had set up a sterile field and had Minhu fully sedated. "Hold the retractor here. Don't move unless I tell you." For the next hour, Maya existed in a bubble of focused calm, following Dr. Yoon's instructions, holding instruments, watching as the doctor extracted the blade and sutured the internal damage. It was nothing like the clean, controlled environment of a hospital. It was improvised and tense and illegal. But it was also beautiful in its precision, in the way Dr. Yoon's hands moved with absolute certainty. When it was finally done, Minhu was pale but stable, bandaged and sedated, his breathing even. Dr. Yoon cleaned up while her assistant monitored the IV. "He'll need to stay still for at least a week," the doctor said to Maya. "No business, no stress. He's terrible at following medical advice, so you'll have to enforce it. Me. You're the one he called. That means you're the one responsible. Dr. Yoon packed her equipment, then paused and looked at Maya carefully. You care about him. It wasn't a question. Maya didn't bother denying it. Is that a problem? For you, probably. For him. Dr. Yoon's expression softened. Maybe it's exactly what he needs. Just remember that caring about Kang Minho means accepting what he is. All of it. I already know what he is. Do you? Or do you just know the parts he's shown you? Before Maya could respond, Dr. Yoon was gone, leaving her alone with an unconscious crime lord and instructions to keep him alive. She looked down at Minho's sleeping face, at the vulnerability she'd never seen before, and felt something tight in her chest. She'd chosen this path. Now she'd have to walk it to the end. Maya called her brother at 6 in the morning, standing on Minho's balcony, where the early light turned Seoul gold and soft. I need you to cover for me with my other jobs, she said when Yi answered sleepily. Tell them I have the flu, at least a week. What's really going on? Her brother knew her too well. A private client needs full-time care. Good money. Maya, you're not a nurse yet. I'm close enough, and we need the money. Yi was quiet for a moment. Is this legal? It's complicated. That means no. It means I'm helping someone who helped us. His tuition money, it came from this client. The one you clean for, late nights. Yi's voice sharpened. What the hell are you involved in? Nothing I can't handle. Trust me. I always trust you. That's what scares me. They talked for a few more minutes, Yi extracting promises that she'd be careful, that she'd call every day, that she'd get out if things got dangerous. She agreed to all of it, knowing that things were already dangerous, that she'd stepped past the point of careful weeks ago. When she went back inside, Minho was still unconscious, but his color was better. She cleaned the blood from the marble, finding a grim satisfaction in erasing the evidence of violence. Then she made coffee, found spare blankets, and settled into the chair beside the couch where he slept. She'd wait. She was good at waiting. He woke at noon, disoriented and in pain. She was ready with water and the pain medication Dr. Yoon had left. He swallowed the pills and looked at her with eyes that took a moment to focus. You stayed. Someone has to make sure you don't do something stupid. Like dying. Exactly like that. He tried to sit up. She pushed him back down, gentle but firm. Dr. Yoon said bed rest for a week, no arguments. I have meetings. People are waiting. Then they'll keep waiting. You're no good to anyone dead. Maya. Do you trust me? The question stopped him. He stared at her, something complicated moving behind his eyes. Yes. Then trust me to take care of you for 1 week. That's all I'm asking. He was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded, settling back against the pillows. 1 week. She smiled. Was that so hard? Harder than you'd think. I'm not used to relying on people. Get used to it, at least for now. The week that followed was strange and domestic and intimate in ways that had nothing to do with romance. Maya learned how to change his dressings, how to help him to the bathroom without tearing his stitches, how to cook simple meals that wouldn't upset his healing body. She learned that he was a terrible patient, constantly trying to check his phone, to make calls, to work from the couch despite her protests. She learned that he talked in his sleep, fragments of Korean and English that hinted at nightmares she couldn't fully understand. But she also learned gentler things, that he liked his coffee black but his tea with honey, that he read constantly, everything from philosophy to crime novels, that he played piano badly but with genuine enjoyment, that he donated anonymously to children's hospitals and women's shelters, though he'd never admit it, that underneath the cold exterior was someone who'd simply learned that caring about things made you vulnerable, so he'd stopped caring about most things. Until now, maybe. It happened gradually, so gradually that neither of them noticed until it was too late to stop. The way his eyes followed her around the room, the way she found excuses to touch him, adjusting his blankets, checking his forehead for fever. The way conversations stretched longer, more personal, crossing boundaries they'd carefully maintained for months. On the 5th night, unable to sleep, she sat by the windows watching the city. Minho appeared beside her, moving carefully, one hand pressed to his bandaged side. "You should be resting," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Pain." "No, thinking." "About what?" He sat down slowly, wincing. "About why you're really here. You could have left after Dr. Yoon came. You could have walked away from all of this. So could you have let me?" "That's different." "How?" "I need you. You don't need me." Maya turned to face him fully. "You think I'd do this for just anyone? Stay up for days nursing a stranger? Risk getting involved in whatever war you're fighting? Then why?" She'd asked herself the same question 100 times. The answer terrified her, so she'd avoided it, pushed it down, focused on practical things like wound care and meal prep. But sitting here in the darkness with him, tired and honest and past the point of pretending, the truth came out simple and clear. "Because somewhere between the blood and the silence and the coffee you leave for me, I started caring whether you lived or died. And I'm practical, Minho, but I'm not cold. I can't watch you bleed and feel nothing." He was very still. "You should feel nothing. It would be safer." "Probably, but I've never been very good at safe." "Maya." "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't tell me all the reasons this is a bad idea. I already know them. You're dangerous. You're involved in things I can't fully understand. People want you dead. Getting close to you makes me a target. I know, but I'm here anyway." "Why?" "Because you're the first person in 3 years who's seen me as something other than invisible. Because you kept your promise about Yi. Because when you look at me, you see someone competent and strong, not someone to protect or pity. And because—" She stopped, the words caught in her throat. "Because what?" "Because I think you're a good man pretending to be a monster, and I can't walk away from that." Minho reached out and took her hand, his fingers warm and careful. "You're wrong. I'm exactly what I appear to be." "Then why do you hunt predators? Why do you pay for orphans' education? Why did you trust me with your life?" "Because even monsters have rules." "No, because you're not a monster. You're just someone who learned to survive in a monstrous world." He pulled her closer, slowly, giving her time to resist. She didn't. She let him draw her in until they were inches apart, his dark eyes searching her face. "If you stay," he said quietly, "there's no going back. You'll be mine. That means protection, but it also means danger. It means being associated with everything I do, everything I am." "I'm already associated with you." "Not like this. Right now you're staff, invisible, safe. If you become something more, you become visible, vulnerable. My enemies will see you as leverage." "Let them try." "You don't understand what you're saying." "I understand perfectly. I'm choosing you anyway. I'm choosing this, whatever it means." He closed the remaining distance and kissed her, gentle and careful, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. She kissed him back, 3 months of tension and careful distance dissolving in the space of a breath. When they finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "You're sure?" he whispered. "I'm sure." "Then you're mine, and I protect what's mine." It should have sounded possessive, controlling. Instead, it sounded like a promise, like the most security she'd had in years. She leaned into him, careful of his injury, and let herself feel safe for the first time since her mother died. They stayed by the windows until dawn, tangled together, watching the city wake below them. And when the sun rose over Seoul, Maya knew her life had changed irrevocably. She'd entered his world completely now. There was no going back. But looking at Minho's sleeping face in the early light, she found she didn't want to. The attack came on the 8th day, just as Minho was regaining his strength. Maya was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she heard the elevator chime. She frowned. No one came up without clearance, and Minho wasn't expecting anyone. She dried her hands and moved toward the living area, where Minho was working from the couch despite her continued objections. He looked up at the sound of the elevator, his expression immediately hardening. "Get behind me." "What?" "Now." His tone left no room for argument. Maya moved behind the couch just as three men stepped out of the elevator into the penthouse. They were young, mid-20s, dressed in cheap suits, trying to look dangerous. One of them carried a gun. Kang Minho, the one with the gun, said in Korean, "You've been hard to find." Minho stood slowly, careful not to show weakness. "You're in my home uninvited. That's a mistake." "Your home is about to become your grave." The man raised the gun. "Kim Seokjin sends his regards." The name meant nothing to Maya, but Minyo's expression went cold. "Seokjin is ambitious and stupid. Sending boys to do his work proves it." "We're not boys," another one said. "We're your death." "How did you get past my security?" Minyo's voice was conversational, but Maya could feel the tension radiating from him. "Your head of security works for Seokjin now. Gave us the codes. Guess you're not as protected as you thought." Minyo absorbed this betrayal without visible reaction. "I see. And Seokjin thinks killing me will give him control of my operations." "He knows it will." "Then he's more foolish than I thought." Minyo stepped forward, hands at his sides. "Because I'm not the only thing protecting my territory. I'm just the most visible." "Doesn't matter. You'll be dead. The rest will fall in line or follow you." Minyo smiled, cold and sharp. "You think you're the first ones to try this? I've survived better men with better plans. Your children playing at violence." The one with the gun stepped closer, angry now. "Shut up. Get on your knees." "No. I'll shoot you where you stand." "Then do it. Stop talking like you're in some movie and pull the trigger." The man's hand shook slightly. Maya realized with sick certainty that he'd never killed anyone before, that this was bravado covering terror. But that made him more dangerous, not less. Frightened people with guns made mistakes. She saw it happening before it did, the finger tightening on the trigger, the moment of decision. Without thinking, she stepped out from behind the couch. "Wait," she said. Everyone turned. The gunman swung toward her, surprised. Minyo's expression went from cold to furious in an instant. "Maya, get back." "Who's this?" The gunman looked between them. "Your girlfriend, Bonus." "She's no one," Minyo said quickly. "A cleaning woman, let her go." "She's standing in your home like she lives here. Try again." Minyo's jaw tightened. Maya saw him calculating, trying to find a way out that didn't end with her dead. She spoke before he could. "My name is Maya. I'm taking care of him. He's still recovering from his last injury. He can barely stand. If you're going to kill him, at least let him sit down. Some dignity." The gunman stared at her. "You're asking me to make him comfortable before I shoot him." "I'm asking you to do this right. If you're going to kill someone, do it like you mean it, not like a scared kid who'll regret it later." "I'm not scared." "Your hand is shaking, and you've been talking for 5 minutes instead of acting. That's fear, not hesitation." "Maya," Minyo said, low and warning. She ignored him, keeping her eyes on the gunman. "You don't want to do this. I can see it. You don't know anything about me. I know you're here because Seokjin promised you money or power or respect. I know you probably need something to change in your life. But this isn't going to give you what you want. It's just going to give you nightmares." "Shut up." "I spent 3 years watching my mother die slowly. I cleaned up after her suffering every single day. I know what death looks like. It's not glorious. It's not powerful. It's just sad and messy and permanent. And if you do this, you'll carry it forever." One of the other men shifted uncomfortably. The gunman's hand wavered. "I said shut up." "Then shoot me first," Maya said calmly. "If you can pull that trigger on someone who's done nothing to you, then maybe you can kill him too. Go ahead." "Maya, stop." Minyo's voice was strained. She walked forward, directly toward the gun, watching the man's face. He was sweating now, his bravado crumbling. She stopped 2 feet from the barrel. "Do it," she said softly. "Show me you're not afraid." For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Then the gunman lowered the weapon, hands shaking. I can't do this." "Yes, you can," one of his companions urged. "Seokjin is counting on us." "I don't care. This is wrong. She's right, I don't want." The elevator chimed again. Everyone froze. The doors opened and 6 men stepped out, all dressed in black, all armed, all moving with the practiced precision of professionals. Minho's actual security team, Maya realized. The real one. The leader, a broad-shouldered man with gray at his temples, assessed the situation instantly. "Mr. Kang, are you hurt?" "No, just disappointed in my hearing practices." "Your former head of security is being handled. These 3. Minho looked at the would-be assassins, who'd gone pale. His gaze lingered on the one who'd held the gun, the one who'd hesitated. "The one with the gun goes free. Tell Seokjin exactly what happened here. Tell him his plan failed because he sent children instead of killers." "Sir." "You heard me. Let him go. The other 2 stay for questioning." The security team moved efficiently, separating the 3 men. The gunman looked at Maya, something like gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just don't come back." They took him to the elevator. Minho turned to the security team leader. "How did they get in?" "Your head of security sold out. He's been working for Kim Seokjin for 3 months, feeding information. We've arrested him. The rest of the security staff is clean." "Good. Increase patrols. No one gets to this floor without 3 forms of verification, and I want Seokjin's location within the hour." "Yes, sir." When they were finally alone, Minho turned to Maya. His expression was unreadable. "That was incredibly stupid." "It worked. You could have been shot." "So could you." "I'm used to it, you're not." "I'm learning." He crossed the space between them and pulled her against him, careful of his injury but firm. "Don't ever do that again. Don't ever put yourself between me and a gun." "Then don't get guns pointed at you." "Maya." "I'm not fragile, Minho. Stop treating me like I'll break." "You're not fragile, you're reckless. There's a difference." She pulled back enough to see his face. That man wasn't going to shoot. I saw it. He was scared. And sometimes scared people need someone to give them permission to back down. "And if you were wrong, if he'd panicked and pulled the trigger?" "Then I'd be dead, but I wasn't wrong." He stared at her, anger and fear and something deeper warring in his expression. Then he kissed her, hard and desperate, like he was trying to prove she was real and alive and still there. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "You're going to give me a heart attack before the enemies do. Then we'll be even." Despite everything, he laughed. "How are you real?" "Survived too much to be anything else." He held her for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. "I need to deal with Seokjin. Today, can you stay here with the security team?" "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." "Minho." "This isn't negotiable. Seokjin tried to have me killed in my own home. My response will be decisive and violent. You're not watching that." "Because you think I can't handle it." "Because I don't want you to have to. Let me keep some of this darkness away from you." She wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about her capability. It was about his need to protect her from the worst parts of his world, even if she'd already seen pieces of it. "Fine," she said, "but you come back, promise me." "I promise." "And Minho, make him regret it." His smile was cold and satisfied. "I intend to." He kissed her once more, then left with his security team. Maya watched from the windows as a convoy of black cars pulled out of the building garage and disappeared into Seoul traffic. She should be afraid. She should be planning her escape, getting her brother and running as far from this life as possible. Instead, she cleaned up the lunch she'd abandoned, checked that Minho's wound dressing supplies were ready for when he returned, and settled in to wait. Because this was who she was now. The woman who stood beside a monster and called him by his name. The woman who'd walked into danger because someone needed cleaning and stayed because someone needed her. She thought about the gunman's face, about the relief when she'd given him permission to walk away. Maybe that's what Minho needed too. Not someone to save him, but someone to stand beside him and say, "You're still human. You can still choose mercy." Her phone buzzed. A text from Minho, "I'm fine. This will take a few hours, don't worry." She smiled at the screen and texted back, "I'm not worried. I trust you." The response came quickly. That might be the most dangerous thing about you. Or the most valuable. Both. She set down her phone and looked out at the city, at the millions of lives unfolding in ignorance of the war being waged in their midst. Somewhere out there, Kang Minho was reminding someone why you didn't betray him. Somewhere out there, Kim Seok-jin was learning that ambition without caution was just another form of suicide. And here, 40 stories up, Maya waited like she'd been waiting her whole life. Patiently, practically, with steady hands and a quiet mind. Because when you loved a dangerous man, you learned to live with danger. You learned that safety was an illusion and control was temporary, and all you really had was the choice to stay or go. She'd made her choice. Now she'd see it through. Minho returned at midnight, alone, wearing a fresh suit. He moved carefully but confidently, his injury no longer hampering him significantly. Maya was reading on the couch when he walked in. She looked up, searching his face for signs of violence or regret. He looked satisfied. "It's done," he said simply. "Seok-jin will no longer be a problem. Neither will anyone else who thinks I've gone soft." He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. She closed her book and waited for him to speak. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. "I gave him a choice," he finally said. "Exile or death. He chose exile. He has 24 hours to leave Korea. If he ever comes back, the choice disappears." That was merciful. That was practical. Dead martyrs inspire loyalty. Broken men running with their tails between their legs just inspire contempt. Still, you could have killed him. I could have. Part of me wanted to. But then I thought about what you said to that boy earlier, about nightmares and regret, and I thought maybe mercy wasn't weakness. Maybe it was just efficiency by another name. Maya leaned against him. "You're a complicated man, Kang Minho," says the woman who negotiates with gunmen. "We're a match set." He laughed quietly. "Yes, I suppose we are." They sat in comfortable silence, the city glittering below them, the danger past but not forgotten. After a while, Minho spoke again. "My world doesn't get safer. There will always be another Seok-jin, another threat, another night like tonight." "I know. And you're still staying." "I'm still staying." He turned to look at her, something vulnerable in his expression. "Why?" "Because you asked me once why I wasn't afraid of you. The answer is still the same. Fear doesn't change anything, but choice does, and I choose this, I choose you. You could have a normal life, meet someone ordinary, have the quiet existence you deserve." "I don't want quiet. I've had quiet. It's lonely and empty and boring. I want this. The danger and the blood and the strange hours. I want coffee at midnight and conversations about mercy. I want to stand beside the most dangerous man in Seoul and know that he trusts me enough to let me see him without the armor." "You're insane." "Probably, but so are you for wanting me here." "That's different. I'm selfish. I want you here because you make the darkness feel less suffocating." "Then we're both selfish, and both insane, and both choosing this anyway." He pulled her closer, kissing her temple. "I'll protect you. Whatever it takes, whoever threatens you, I'll end them." "I know. That's why I'm not afraid." They stayed intertwined as the city slowly quieted, as midnight became early morning, as the life they'd chosen together solidified into something real and undeniable. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't safe, but it was theirs. And sometimes Maya thought that was enough. In the weeks that followed, life developed a new rhythm. Maya officially moved into the penthouse, a practical decision that Minho framed as necessary for his continued recovery, but they both knew meant something more. She quit her other cleaning jobs, no longer needing them now that Minho paid her generously for managing his household and occasionally assisting with the less savory aspects of his business that required a steady hand and absolute discretion. Yi visited once, nervous and protective, ready to extract his sister from danger. He left 3 hours later, somehow charmed by Minho's quiet intensity and obvious care for Maya. Before he departed, Minho pulled him aside for a conversation Maya wasn't privy to. When Yi hugged her goodbye, he whispered, He's terrifying, but he loves you. I can see it. He hasn't said that. He doesn't have to. It's in everything he does. Maya thought about that often in the quiet moments, watching Minho work in his underground office, or standing beside him at charity events, where he played the role of legitimate businessman with practiced ease. He'd given her a life she'd never imagined. Security, purpose, a strange kind of family in his network of loyal associates who treated her with respect that bordered on reverence. But more than that, he'd given her himself. The man beneath the monster, the person who'd learned that showing vulnerability meant inviting pain, so he'd built walls so high even he sometimes forgot they were there. With her, slowly, those walls came down. He told her about his childhood, about growing up in poverty and violence, about clawing his way to power through intelligence and ruthlessness. He told her about the nightmares, the cost of command, the loneliness of being feared by everyone. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a good man doing bad things or a bad man pretending to have principles, he admitted one night. Does it matter? She asked. You protect people, you hunt predators, you have a code. That's more than most people can say. My code has a lot of blood in it. So does surgery. Doesn't make doctors evil. He smiled at that. You always know what to say. I just say what's true. That's why I trust you. Trust, she learned, was his highest form of love. He showed it by including her in meetings, asking her opinion, letting her see the full scope of his operations. He showed it by teaching her self-defense, by ensuring she knew how to shoot, by making sure she could protect herself if he wasn't there. He showed it by introducing her to his mother, a fierce woman who ran a restaurant in Busan and treated Maya like a daughter within minutes. You're good for him, Mrs. Kang said, pulling Maya into the kitchen away from where Minho was catching up with old friends. He was losing himself before you, becoming colder. You remind him he's human. He's more human than he thinks. Yes, but he needed someone to see that, someone who wasn't afraid. I was afraid at first. But you stayed. That's the difference. Love isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and choosing the person anyway. Maya helped Mrs. Kang prepare banchan, feeling more at peace than she had in years. This strange life she'd fallen into, with its danger and darkness, also held unexpected warmth. Family dinners with a crime lord and his mother. Quiet mornings with coffee and comfortable silence. Nights spent cleaning up after violence, yes, but also nights spent wrapped in arms that held her like she was precious. When they left Busan, driving back to Seoul in Minho's car, he reached over and took her hand. Thank you, he said. For what? For making my mother happy. She worries about me. Having you there eased some of that worry. She's lovely. I see where you get your strength from. She survived my father. That took more strength than anything I've ever done. He didn't elaborate, but she understood. Some violences were private, written on souls instead of bodies. They drove in comfortable silence, the highway lights streaming past, Seoul growing closer with every kilometer. Minho, she said as they entered the city limits. Yes. I love you. He was quiet for so long she thought maybe she'd made a mistake. Then he pulled over, right there on the side of the highway, and turned to face her. Say it again. I love you. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. I've never said that to anyone, never felt it, didn't think I was capable. You don't have to say it back, I just wanted you to know. But I do feel it. I just don't know how to say it without it sounding like a cage, like I'm trapping you in my world. You're not trapping me, I walked in willingly, and I'm staying willingly, that's love too. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like she was air and he'd been drowning. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he whispered. I've loved you since you looked at blood on my floor and asked what needed cleaning. I've loved you since you stood between me and a gun. I've loved you since you proved that steady hands and a quiet mind could be more powerful than any weapon. Then we're both insane. Completely. They drove the rest of the way home in silence, but her hand stayed in his, their fingers intertwined. And when they reached the penthouse, stepping into the space where she'd first seen him covered in blood, where she'd nursed him back to health, where they'd built something impossible and real. She knew she'd found what she'd been searching for without knowing she was searching. Not safety, not quiet, not the normal life everyone said she should want. But belonging, purpose, a place beside someone who saw her completely and chose her anyway. The world kept turning. Threats emerged and were handled. Business continued, dark and necessary. Blood was spilled and cleaned, violence dispensed with precision and control. The city below them pulsed with life, ignorant of the man who shaped its shadows, of the woman who stood beside him. And every night at 3 a.m., when the city finally quieted, when the danger receded enough to breathe, Minho would find Maya wherever she was and pull her close. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. But always, without fail, he would whisper against her hair, "Thank you for not being afraid." And she would answer, every single time, "Thank you for being worth the risk." Because that's what love was in their world. Not flowers and promises. Not grand gestures and perfect timing. Just two people who'd survived too much to lie about it, choosing each other in the darkness, building something real from blood and trust in steady hands. It wasn't the story anyone would have written for them. But it was theirs. And in the penthouse, 40 stories above Seoul, where the marble gleamed and the windows reflected infinity, that was more than enough.